And we're live. All right. Hey, when I first came to Costa Rica way back in November 2013, well, I didn't really do any research, but I had questions. Well, after I got to Costa Rica, and it wasn't that hard to move to Costa Rica. Well, it was really easy, but I did make mistakes and I had more questions, and it's like, who do I go to for answers? And I wanted to make sure if I go to someone for answers, I want someone that lives here, someone that has a house, not a tourist. So guess what? Welcome back to the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica channel, where on the first weekend of every month you got live Q&A. So today you get to answer your questions. Really doesn't matter what the topic is on. Maybe you want advice on love. Well, I don't know if you want to ask me, but I could sure give you some answers. Anyway, we probably want to ask questions about love in Costa Rica. Hey, where should I live? What's the difference between, the coast and living in the mountains? What's the difference between southern, I'm talking about way south, Costa Rica, which is near Panama, or how's it different close to Nicaragua? What about the Central Valley? Hey, I have lived in over 25 different location houses, all in search of my perfect piece of paradise. And you know what? 5 years ago, I found it. And actually, I found it when the very first month I came to Costa Rica, but I couldn't afford to buy it then. And then 5 years ago, the owner asked me to live here, and now I'm living in paradise. But my point is, I lived all over just trying to say, hey, is this better than this spot? Is this better than that spot? And in that process, I did make mistakes. I did have questions. And, I began helping other people, because really, this is the only channel not trying to sell you Costa Rica so you can buy more of my product and services. Hey, nothing wrong with channels that sell a product and service. What's wrong is if you have a dishonest YouTuber trying to sell you product and services you don't need so that they can pad their pocket with your money. So, hey, right here, you can feel confident. That's the first thing you should do, is ask your question, what's in it for Alan? Why is he doing these lives? Well, I do the lives because I don't need the money. It's a hobby. And as a pastor, I feel good helping other people. That's just the pastor's heart. I like to help you. And if I can keep you from getting conned, oh, man, I kind of feel like I'm getting paid back for the thousands upon thousands of dollars I've lost because I made the mistakes, okay? And I don't want you to make the same mistakes, okay? All right, so hey, here's a great question right here. So, Real Raxus, why are there so many people that call you a dishonest YouTuber? Okay, so are you saying there's a lot of people that call Alan a dishonest YouTuber? Clarify that question, because of course, obviously, I haven't heard that, but I can tell you that if that is the actual question, there's a lot of people that, hey, a lot of mostly YouTubers, they don't like me. Why? Well, I call them out. I call them out on their dishonesty. And I don't just call them out, I prove it. So I'm not going to say, hey, I don't like that dude. Well, I got proof as to why that guy is dishonest. So I hope I answered your question. And if I didn't, well then, hey, rephrase that question. Esquire says, hey, I never heard that either. So Esquire has never heard that people say I'm dishonest. And Ken Patel says, Alan, you're a blessing, brother. And Orly says, hey, Alan, does it snow in Costa Rica? I'm done with cold weather. That was one of the very first questions I had when I came to Costa Rica. I was like, I don't like cold weather, but I do like to snowboard every once in a while. I wonder if there's a place that I could actually snowboard. I searched and searched and searched, only to discover that Charapo Mountain, which is located in the Paris Zeledon area of Costa Rica, really close to San Isidro del General, okay? Well, that's the highest point in Costa Rica. I can't remember how high it is, but it never snows. However, if you go hiking up there, and I have hiked up there, not completely to the top, he's about 5 kilometers from the top, and the guy decides to turn around. I'm like, dude, we're so close. Anyway, a lot of places they have water that's running from the rivers, and it's going into, a 55-gallon plastic drum. Well, some of those drums had ice on the top of it. That's how cold it can get up there. But never saw any snow. So I hope you've heard that. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. Okay. So, hey, hey, I'm going to scan through here. Now's a good time. Put some questions in, any questions you have, put them down there. And let me just ask you one favor. Be engaging. Hey, even if you don't have a question, you got a comment. Maybe you want to share your experience in Costa Rica. That's what the very first Sunday of our Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast is all about. It's really just about helping each other to learn, find out a little bit more about Costa Rica. And there's really no topic off limit, okay? All right, Esquire, he says, obviously he did quick research, says the highest point in Costa Rica is Cerro Chirripó, which stands at an elevation of 3,821 meters, 12,536 feet. Esquire, you the man. Thank you so much for checking that out. Okay. And it's high. It does get cold. So if you ever do want to hike it, you actually got to get on a waiting list pretty much to go hike it. But it is beautiful. Great place for bird watchers too. Now, Ken Patel says, should I buy a home if I'm only going to live maybe 6 to 9 months a year? Or is it better to rent as far as the upkeep goes? Okay, so that's kind of really an if question. It depends question. So here's the deal. Okay, Ken, if you're only going to live 6 to 9 months out of the year, well, guess what? If you buy a home, it is far, far better because you can control your environment, okay? However, the most important thing you need to know is if you buy a home, you're only going to be there 6 to 9 months out of the year. Here's the question, write it down. Who is going to watch your house when you're gone? In the United States, Canada, you got a house, you lock it, you leave it, nobody bothers it. You come here for 6 months, brother. You locked your house and you leave. You come back in 6 months, you might not have a roof. The Ticos will literally start deconstructing your house and stealing everything that's there. I've seen several houses that fell into that category. So there's nothing wrong if you're going to be here 6 to 9 months and live in a house, but you have to ask yourself, okay, is that house in a gated community where it's safer? Is it in a very remote area like where I'm at? Very, very remote. Almost nobody will bother it, and you can pay a neighbor to watch it pretty, and never worry. But let's say that you bought a house, it's over in San Isidro, okay? Semi-remote, okay, which is where most gringos go because they don't want to be neighbors right next to them. Well, if nobody's watching it, they'll steal everything that's on the property, okay? You'll come back to a piece of ground, all right? So now there are websites where you can go check Google and look for house sitters, okay? Join those sites. They're like $100, $150, and then you can have house sitters come live in your house. Some a month, some. I've sat in a house and was there for a year, okay? And so have a house sitter to watch your house. Most important. If you leave for more than a week, you need to have a house sitter. Depending on where you live, if you leave one day, you better have a house sitter. So, but most Costa Rica is not that bad. So I hope that answered your question, Ken. And Ken says, very helpful, Alan. So, hey, my pleasure. And guess what? It didn't cost you nothing. Woohoo! That's what today is all about. Nothing wrong with selling stuff. And, if you want a one-on-one phone consultation, you can do that. But, I rarely even talk about that because my channel is not about selling you stuff, okay? But if you do want a one-on-one consultation, you can look in the description of any channel, click the link, make a schedule, and be more than glad to talk to you so that I can answer your questions personally. You might have something private that you don't want to ask right out here, okay? But hey, today's a free consultation. Now, Esquire says, we have left for more than just a week or two, but they're in a gated community. And that does make it better, okay? When you're in a gated community, right, if it's a true gated community, usually most of the time you don't have to worry about it. But real life experience, when I was building that house over in Jaco, or actually it was Playa Hermosa, it's a gated community. Well, guess what? We get there one day, and one of the employees, who's a Tico of the gated community, was stealing bricks off of my property. Well, it wasn't my property, but off the job site where we were building a house. So, you just have to be careful. Now, guess what? I'm glad you brought that up, Esquire, because let's get back to Ken. Ken, if you have a house in a remote area, and I would highly suggest, if you leave for a week, really not a problem, especially if you have a hurricane fence around your yard and a couple of big, bad dogs, man. Get your pit bull dog, get you some German Shepherds, get you some, Dobermans, Rottweilers. Ticos ain't going to bother it. Now, there is a chance they might poison it, but most of the time that doesn't happen. But anyway, just another added point for you, Ken. So anyway, and look, give me your feedback. So, I've been like super, super busy here, and I used to be able to put brand new videos out once a week. Just haven't had time because I've been building the house and all that. And while the house is not done, it's comfortable. So I'm thinking about, going back to where I'm posting videos every week. However, I'm thinking about doing a series. And I think the series would be very, very helpful. And the whole series is all about, hey, the steps of moving to Costa Rica and giving you the honest steps of moving to Costa Rica without getting conned by hiring a supposed relocation expert who really is an expert on conning you. So I was thinking about just doing a mini series on the steps and what you should be looking for. What's the best way for you to research Costa Rica? What you should be thinking about, and then kind of those steps of what to do before, what to do when you're here, what to do after you're here, and if you think that would be worthwhile, let me know. Or maybe you got an idea. Hey, Alan, how about doing a series on this or a series on that? And or hey, I'd just like to see another one of these videos you used to do in the past. Give me your feedback. I'd like to know. Now, here's a good point. Eduardo says that a lot of people, including me, okay? I'm not perfect. I thought I was, but then, I found out I wasn't. Anyway, Eduardo says, some gringos can't take that everything is mañana, tomorrow life. Some can't take that. Eduardo, I'm so glad that you put that up there because my personality, and I've studied personalities in depth, and there's basically 4 types of personalities, and my personality, I'm that alpha, I'm like being on top of the game, and I'm getting and I'm going, Well, in Costa Rica, you don't get and go, For me, everything I do it right. If I make a mistake, it's going to be the best mistake I ever made. But Costa Rica, it's not that way. It's very laid back. Now, you know what? I've become way more laid back in the last few years, and I'm becoming more laid back now than I ever have. It's simply because I've probably aged. I've just decided not to work as hard as before. Anyway, here's the most important thing. My personality is I'm get it and go, and Ticos are really laid back. They're most of the time hardly ever going to be on time. When they do a job, I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. For example, I often see a toilet, the flapper's not working anymore, and instead of just spending $5 or $6 to buy another flapper, they might put a string in there, take the handle off of the tank and run the string through there, and then you pull the string and the toilet flushes. The mentality for most Ticos is not to do it right. The mentality is it functional? Can I put a string in there and if you pull it and the toilet still flushes, it's functional. So most Ticos have a functional mentality. Oh, it works. What's wrong with that? They might use duct tape to fix something. It works. It's temporarily working. So you have to understand that if you hire somebody and it's like, hey, anyone's an electrician? Oh, my brother-in-law's an electrician. It don't mean he's certified. Don't mean he knows what he's doing. he might have a little bit of basic skills on electricity, but your house might burn down. So you got to be careful when hiring a Tico, because a lot of Ticos, they know how to do stuff simply because they can't afford to hire someone. A lot of them, not all of them, but they're learning how to do it. So guess what? If they know how to do it, they're going to make money doing it. Don't mean they're doing it right. Okay. It does mean that they're going to do it to the best of their ability, but their ability may not be that great. So it's important to know that. All right. But I'm glad you brought that up, because it is difficult. Because when you come to Costa Rica, nobody's in a hurry. Nobody's in a hurry until they get behind the wheel of a car. And then they think you're on the NASCAR 500. And they're passing you and blowing the horn. And it's nuts. All right, Esquire. Hey, I agree. Esquire says, you need to do a series about living in the Central Valley. Man, I agree. And you know what? I'm going to come see you pretty soon, Esquire, because I'm going to interview you. We're going to get a hold of some of your friends, and I'm going to interview them. I actually want to do a series about, because actually there's more foreigners, there's more gringos living in the Central Valley than you would think. Matter of fact, and it would be good to know. Today, I met 3 Filipinas, and they lived in the Central Valley. And come to find out that there's not a lot of Filipinas that come to Costa Rica, but the majority of the Filipinas that do come to Costa Rica, they live in the Central Valley. And why is that? Well, this is just my opinion. I don't have any facts here. But because I went to the Philippines and I've had coworkers there, well, when I went to the Philippines, almost everywhere you go in the Philippines, man, it's city. It's city. While they do have remote areas, the highways, it's like city all the time. So for a Filipina or Filipino to come to Costa Rica, it's like living in a city. It's no different, okay? Because in the Philippines, it's not like you got a ton of trees everywhere, And so living in a concrete jungle in the Central Valley is not a bad thing for them. And then that's especially true for anyone that's coming from LA, or New York or whatever. Living in San Jose, well, that's like living in a rural area in comparison. Now, Reckon says, hey, what is happening with the beautiful property above you? Okay, so this is an absolutely gorgeous property here. And the owner, of course, that had this property, the guy that I was taking care of, well, he died. And so I now manage the property, and it's becoming more and more and more beautiful. Matter of fact, pretty soon I'll actually start adding some clips about this beautiful property here, and you'll get an idea of what is actually going on. So I hope that answers your question. And Ed says, that is hilarious. The calmest people in the world until they get behind the wheel. And that is a fact, Jack. I'm telling you. Matter of fact, this is funny. So, some Ticos don't like me, just like YouTubers don't like me, because I'm brutal. I'm honest. Okay. Some people say I'm hard to listen to. I don't know why. Anyway, I actually had this Tico who commented last week. I really need to pull it up and share some of these comments. But he says, look, I'm a Tico, moved to the United States. I can't remember where he was living at. Been living in the United States quite a number of years. I don't know if it's 20, 30 years. And he said he came back to Costa Rica, and he says he hates Costa Rica. He hates Pura Vida because Pura Vida is nothing more than an excuse to be lazy, sloppy, And he said, because of that, I'm a Tico, and I left Costa Rica, okay, because he hates it. So when and a lot of Ticos, I don't know how many but some Ticos, when they go to the United States and they see a whole different mentality and they choose to embrace that mentality, then they become very wealthy because they start doing things, to the best of their ability instead of just, it's functional, and they make a lot of money. But then when they come to Costa Rica, even they can't adapt back to their own country. So and that guy said, he says, Ticos are the worst drivers in the whole world. He says they use their horn instead of their brake. And that's true. It's funny. Funny. Hey, you know what? I agree. It's time for a commercial break, and it's time for Allen's Apple Juice commercial. Hey, I don't have Allen's Apple Juice today, but you know what? I got milk. What did it say? Milk. Good for the body. Actually, I love milk, but I don't drink milk. This is actually coconut milk. And I have to admit, it's probably a little bit like Irish coffee, if you get the drift. Milk, good for the body. Hey, it won't be long. We're going to be back to some Allen's Apple Juice. So I'm taking a look here. Esquire put in a comment, and wait a minute. Okay, no, wait. Esquire says supposedly about 70,000 around here. So Esquire, clarify for me. Are you saying there's supposedly 70,000 expats that live in the Central Valley? I'd like to know that. I don't ever check the statistics, but that would be good to know. You know, this is a good comment. Eduardo shared this earlier on a comment. He says he needed a part for his Geo tractor. So he goes to a junkyard to get the part. And this Tico, who had a junkyard, wanted to give him the gringo price of 54,000 colones. He went to another place and he got it for 12,500. And that's not uncommon. So, and there's more to that story because he found out that the owner of that particular part yard wasn't a Tico. And so he was able to get this part a lot cheaper. So that's not uncommon. I remember going to a part store, you know, it comes from a junkyard, and all it was a little clamp. And the clamp held up the stabilizer bar. And it was for my galloper. The dude wanted 20,000 clones for a little metal clamp, okay, that you could buy on Amazon for like $4, you know. But he's like, you ain't on Amazon, are you? yeah, you want $40 for a little? No, I was like, that ain't never gonna happen. Never. So I ended up going somewhere else, wheeling and dealing, and I ended up paying 10,000 colones. So you got to wheel and deal in Costa Rica. And I don't like wheeling and dealing, but that's the truth. Okay. Now, Esquire says he's in the Central Valley, but he's over in antennas and it's not a concrete jungle. So, and that's really good because where he's living at, there are areas outside the concrete jungle. I would never live in the concrete jungle. I do know some expats that do. However, if you want to be close to the airport, you want to be close to fine dining, you want to be close to buying stuff. Well, hey, going to the Central Valley, you can be, 15, 20, 30 minutes away and you're not in the concrete jungle anymore. You might not be in the jungle, but, and you might not have monkeys, but maybe you do. So it is nice. I'm glad you put that in there. Now, JR brought up a point, which is true. Ticos never say they can't do anything. They'll take the job and learn as they go. So that's something you should take into consideration. And that is very true. Matter of fact, to add to that, if you happen to be driving and you stop on the side of the road and you ask a Tico and say, hey, where's McDonald's or where's Town Central? They will tell you. It don't mean it's the right way, but they won't say they don't know. So I have gotten into the habit of saying, hey, look, can you help me out for a second? Yeah, look, hey, if I need some help getting somewhere, but if you don't know the answer, just tell me you don't know. I won't be upset. So I'm trying to find Pizza Hut. Can you tell me where it's at? Now, if you don't know, just tell me. That's okay. I'll ask somebody else. And so that has always saved me a little bit of time because I'm not going on some wild goose chase. But hey, thanks for sharing that, JR. So Esquire does confirm that's like 70,000 expats around the antennas area. That's pretty amazing. And that is why a lot of English is spoken around there. So, if you have no desire whatsoever to learn Spanish, well, no problem. Go move to an area where there is a lot of expats, and a lot of the area, a lot of the Ticos will adapt. That's exactly what it was in Playa Hermosa. Matter of fact, at Playa Hermosa, where I was building that one big house, guess what? In Playa Hermosa, it was more Americanized than it was Ticos, okay? Because the whole culture there had changed. There's so many expats that were on Playa Hermosa and Hermosa Calle. There was way more expats than there was Ticos, but there was still a lot of Ticos that walked up and down that road every day. And man, they would wave to you all the time. And that's very unusual for Ticos. I mean, I have lived in so many different places, and you're driving on a motorbike, you wave at somebody, and they just kind of look at you like, who is that gringo? So Ticos aren't as friendly as you hear on the internet. They're friendly once they get to know you, but friendly. My version of friendly is you wave at somebody and they wave back. You smile at somebody, they smile back. Ticos don't. Okay, very different. But in Hermosa Calle, Playa Hermosa, there's so many expats that the Ticos are all waving everything because they know that's the culture of Americans. Eduardo brings up he would never drive in San Jose. He says even the bus doesn't stop at the railroad tracks to look and see if anything is coming, and the light could be blinking red. There's some truth to that. I mean, dude, if you're driving in Costa Rica, be careful. Eduardo, have you been, you got a camera? Are you spying on me? I think, Edward, I'm not going to confirm, but I think he's spying on me. So right there, he says, Esquire saying that picture right there is a picture of their place over in Antennas. So you can see they're not in the concrete jungle, depending on how well you can see that. So I'm just kind of scanning through here. And look, let me just ask you real quick. We've only been here for, darn, I don't know how, half an hour left already. But look, there's 18 people here. Do me a favor. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Literally takes you 2 seconds. Click that like button and post a comment, especially after the video is over. Post a comment. Give me your feedback. Hey, if you don't like me, just say you don't like me. I really don't care because I don't do this for the friends. I got enough friends. But I do this to help you out. And, of course, I do have quite a few friends or associates, whatever you want to call it. And so anyway, I enjoy helping you out, and I really enjoy you helping me by simply hitting that like button and sharing. So we can, I want to help a lot of people to be able to learn the facts, the truth about living in Costa Rica. So, oh, you know what? And I met those. I don't know whether I should say this or not. Okay, so, a lot of Filipinas, because I happened to ask those 3 Filipinas why they chose to live in Costa Rica, okay, instead of their home country. And so one Filipino was here about 27 years. One was here for about 8 years and one for 4 years. And all 3 of them said they came here for the work opportunity. All right. Now, first question comes to my mind is, wait a minute, you can't work here unless you're a resident. So they might have waited till after they got their residency and then worked. But here's the truth. And I know this from having talked to some Filipinas in the past, in the San Jose area. It's easy for a Filipina to come work here. Remember, when you're coming here or you're thinking about moving to Costa Rica, if you're young like me, because, I turned 21 last week. If you're young like me, well, you might still want to work. And if you can't technically, legally work in Costa Rica unless you're working for yourself online or something like that. So you can work out, you become a resident, but then it's still a lot difficult. Well, Filipinas, they are Asian, but they kind of look like Ticos, okay, or Ticas. So it's easy for Filipinos to come down here and work because they don't stand out like I would. If I'm bussing tables or I'm a waiter at a restaurant, they're gonna bust me. You can't be working in Costa Rica, but a Filipina looks like a tica, she can get away with it. And so it's easy. And so I asked these 3 Filipinas, I says, do you miss your home country? Or I'm sure you do, but do you like it better in Costa Rica than your home country? All 3 of them said, yeah, they like it better in Costa Rica because it was more laid back. In the Philippines, it's kind of like the United States where, man, it's work, push. But in Costa Rica, it's more laid back. They're guaranteed to have a day off every week, All right, so Reckon says, curious, what do you think about the rad pad builds? And I'm not sure I don't know that I know what you're talking about. You might have to rephrase it or describe it, but I don't know that I've ever heard of the rad pad builds. So, hey, break it down for me, Reckon. So Esquire shares, life is like a tire. It's not how many years it will last, it's how many miles you can go. I think I can agree with that. And, in Costa Rica, you got to be a pretty tough tire, especially if depending on where you live. Now, Ed says, I know a lot of real estate people and property managers that are gringos that work here. And those gringos can do that because typically they open up their own business. If they open up their own business, okay, then technically they're not supposed to work in that business. They're supposed to hire people, and then they're just kind of managing that business from home or their office or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of gringos that come here, may not be a resident, but if you have your own business, that's a whole different story. And, maybe we need to talk about that some other time. Okay, so Reckon says, there's a YouTuber that's with Spicy Life in the Dominical area. Yeah, he's commented on my channel a few times, trying to get more subscribers to his channel. And I've seen him, but I still don't know what the rad pad buildings are. Who knows? And absolutely, Eduardo says, hey, some people just can't handle the truth, and that is a fact. Hey, for me, I call it like it is. Some people just can't handle my personality, and that's okay. I'm not trying to be the biggest and greatest channel out there, but I can tell you one thing. If I tell it to you, I 100% believe it, and I'm trying to give you the whole. I'm giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And hey, like I said, I do it because I enjoy it, and I just hadn't had time, but I'm planning on doing. The plan is to do more videos and be, even more helpful. So, all right. So right now, since I don't have any questions here, okay. So Reckon says, hey, look it up, friend. I obviously want your honest opinion. Well, I'll have to check into it and see what the rad pad. And so the best way, if you want me to look it up, is to send me an email, and that way I'll remember. Because once we get off this live, I'm going to completely forget about it. But if you will send me an email, and if you don't have my email, well, simple. Go to any description, click on it to join my subscriber list. You'll get an email, and then you can immediately reply to one of them and say, hey, I'd like to get your opinion on the rad pads, and I'll look into it. All right. And Reckon says, hey, no problem. So Esquire is saying rad pad building refers to the construction of luxury rental units in Costa Rica, focusing on sustainable, low maintenance designs. Here are some key points. All right. So he's going to give us some key points. All right. Well, okay. I'm going to look into it, and we'll find out some more stuff. Key points. So I'm willing to bet Esquire is going to give us some key points here in a little bit. Okay. Refers to construction of luxury rental units in Costa Rica. Focus on sustainable, low maintenance designs. Now, I tell you what, if you're an investor and you have money, dude, there's lots of properties that you can buy and farm property, okay? May not have any trees on it because it's mostly cows, and that's okay. But if you take and you buy property, and you can, look, if you know what you're doing like I do, you can buy property at a really great price. Then you can turn around and subdivide it. You can make a tiny home development, an eco development, all kinds of developments. And if you know how to do marketing like I do, then you'll make an absolute fortune, okay? You just got to give people what they want. And don't just give them the everyday common crap, okay? Brand it. And, you know, this is a tiny home development, got their own garden, this, that, and another. You build it right. And if you build it right and you sell it right, you'll get a ton of people. Now, Reckon replies back to Esquire and says, I don't think it's really luxury pads, but that's his opinion. All right, so Esquire says, RadPad builds luxury rental assets using high-quality systems and materials, ensuring long-lasting and low-maintenance units. That's one key point. So, hey, I'm going to have to look it up and get some more info on that. I'd like to know a little more. They also have affordable options. They offer vacation rental units starting as low as $35,000, making it accessible for various investors. Now, there's one place called, doggone it, I used to take, when I was doing relocation events, we would take people to this place, Mystico, and it was on the coast. They had some beautiful places. They weren't tremendously outrageous, very gated, okay? And so that would be a place that you could leave for a year and nobody bothered. But they had houses, they had duplexes, they had condo units. So look, if you want to be in a I want to say, if you want to be in a gated community that's upscale, but won't cost you an arm and a leg, well, then I would check out Mystico. Mystico was quite nifty because I would take people in there. And when I first started going in there, you know, because I go in there and I show people the houses and I say, okay, let's take this unit right here. Here's how much it costs. Now take a look at the mistakes. And I would show them the mistakes. I would show them, look, they don't have the right electrical outlets here in the kitchen. Well, after I was there once or twice and they realized I was going to point it all out, the next condo, they started building it correct. You know, they're like, dude, we're losing money because this guy's bringing people in here and he's pointing out where they don't have the proper electrical. They don't have this. And they started upgrading. They started making it better. Okay. So Esquire says he's getting a lot of this information to Chat GPT. Well, I'll have to check into it and see what's going on. He says sustainable design. Rad pads are designed to maximize shade, drainage, airflow, creating a harmonious living environment in the jungle. For more detailed information, you can visit their website. Well, that's interesting. So anyhow, you know, it's definitely worth looking into. But I think, you know, like a lot of people, let's say, I think the majority of people that come to Costa Rica do have money. A lot of times they already have a home that they own in the United States, so they sell it. And real estate is expensive over there, so they can sell it, maybe come over here with, you know, $250,000, $500,000, and then you can come down here. You can easily find a nice piece of property with a house already built for $250,000, $300,000, $200,000 even, and then you own your place. And so you could easily make some nice, you know, you can. So now for those people that don't have that kind of money, for example, I'm not a rich dude. Okay. I'm a hard worker, but there's no way in the world I'd spend $200,000 on an already built house. But you know what? I built this house right here. And, you know, I built this house, and while it's not 100% done, you know, I built this house is 8 foot on the inside, 32 foot long on the inside, and I spent under, I want to say under $10,000. I'd have to go look at my spreadsheet, But hey, I built this thing all myself, and it's all metal. And of course, I will probably end up putting another 10 or 15,000 in it to complete it on the inside. But hey, 25,000, and I have my own house. Okay, and I love it. You know, Pamela Till happened to be at one of my relocation retreats, and she said Mystico was very, very nice. And hey, I absolutely agree. If I had the money and I wanted to live in a place that didn't feel like it was in a Tico neighborhood, I would definitely go there. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? I got some really great Tico friends, okay? However, I just don't want to live next to you, okay? Your culture is different, and nothing wrong with your culture. I respect your culture. I just don't want to live in your culture. And that's why I live where I live, because I can control my environment, okay? I can control my environment. I don't have to worry about Ticos on my property. I don't have to ever worry about anything going missing. You know, I don't have to worry about Ticos coming and pick my bananas. It's just a different culture, okay? And so that's why living at Mystico, dude, you live in Mystico, you almost feel like you're living in the United States. And Eduardo says, you know, Costa Rica is a great place for retirement, relaxing, enjoying your life, start growing your own veggies, eggs, enjoying your retirement. And of course, his favorite is Guanacaste. And Guanacaste is a nice place. Not my favorite, but there are some phenomenal views. I lived over in Guanacaste, over in, I think it was what was the name of that place? Carmen? Anyway, that was a place there on the Nicoya Peninsula is where I was at. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful views. So, hey, Pamela Till, by the way, it's great to see you. How are you and Tom doing? Hope to see you soon someday. So that's a shout out to Pamela and her husband, Tom. Good people, let me tell you. And, you know, I greatly appreciate all you that are here, especially all those that help us out so much, you know, especially those that are in the members area. And really, there's nothing happening in the members area, but people are there just to support the channel. And it's a great way because, hey, look, every time I do one of these lives, it costs me money. And it doesn't cost a whole lot. But, hey, just to do this on StreamYard so that it could go out to everybody, or heck, I think that's like $50 a month. And that ain't much. But you know what? Every penny that comes in offsets everything that I do for free on the channel, which is great. Pamela says, our good friends bought in a gated community in Heredia called Arenas, much closer to amenities, but not as posh. Okay, although the units are bigger and are still standalone units. And that's good to know. Now, Herradura, if I'm pronouncing it right, I think that's just about 15 minutes away from north of Jaco. Am I correct there, Pamela? I'm almost certain that's where that's at. And matter of fact, in that area, I think that's where you can go to Los Sueños. Great big, huge marina, okay? And Pamela says, hey, we're both doing well. Hope you are too. Absolutely. I'm telling you, life is awesome. And of course, Snuggle says, can you show us a video of you swimming in Amazon for us? We want to see you with cool sea fish friendly. Well, the Amazon's a long ways from here. But you know what? You might see me a video of me surfing, maybe. I don't know. I don't call it surfing. I call it underwater surfing because every time I get on the surfboard, I end up under the water. Now, you know what? Let me share something with you. Since there's not any questions here. You know, I love doing all kind of neat stuff, and I'm building this off-grid homestead. And right now, I am building a trout farm, okay? And, dude, you know, of course, I got some awesome rivers on this property. And so I actually took and built, it's called Gabion. So I know all of you guys, if you've been to Costa Rica, you're driving down the highway, and it looks like chain link fencing, and it's full of rocks. And they'll make great big huge walls out of it. Well, I bought some of that Gabion fencing, put it all together, and went down to the river. And me and my neighbor he volunteered to help me because, hey, we're going to put trout in there and we'll have unlimited amount of trout. He can eat as much as he wants. I can eat as much as I want. So in other words, I got free labor from a neighbor. And we're building this trout pond. Dude, you ought to see how awesome it's looking. So we practically dammed up a portion of that river, and it's right underneath a small waterfall. So anyway, that water falls into the pond now because it wasn't a pond there. It was just a stream. Now we got a pond, and then right now it's about 2 foot deep. Waterfalls in there, which is going to create the air that the trout need. So hopefully within 30 days, we're going to be buying trout and putting trout in there. Maybe I'll do a video or two and show it to you. And Reckon says, hey, is your tiny house done? My tiny house is not done. Hey, we're living in it. It's very airish. And as you can see, I don't even have a front door. I got some cloth for the front door, but that's how safe it is where I'm at. Very, very, very remote. And I don't never have to worry about anything going missing here, you know. But hey, I'm working on some projects, and you know, hey, I'm at a point in my life where I'm just enjoying life. We're building a garden, building a trout pond, putting in quail, and you know, I'm getting life to where I just enjoy life. And now that I manage this humongous property, I'm really, really super busy, but I'm having a whole lot of fun doing it. And eventually, maybe a month before I die, I'll get that tiny house done. And if I don't, it's okay. And my wife, very happy. She's very content, doesn't complain a bit. So I got an amazing, amazing wife. And Pamela Till confirms what I was talking about. Herradura is about 15, 20 minutes north of Jaco. It is a nice area. And it's right, they have a great auto mercado. Now, if you don't know what an auto mercado is, it's really kind of an upscale grocery store. And so you can really find some good groceries there. Sometimes a lot of imported food for expats. Now, look, Ticos can be friendly, okay? Ticos can be friendly. However, they're not above taking advantage of you. So Eduardo shares, hey, you go visit some Ticos, they hide any beer they have because Eduardo is here. But when the Ticos go to visit him, they're like, hey, Eduardo, you got some beer? Hey, look, that's true. That has happened too many times. It's like, I get neighbors come over and they want a cerveza. They want a cold Allen's apple juice. You go to their house, they don't never have any. Why is that? Or maybe they're hiding it. But anyway, you know, when you live in Costa Rica, it really can be just absolutely phenomenal. I tell you what, I am living the life. Now, like I said, the first 8 years, I wasn't crazy about it. But when I got on my own property, then I was able to control my environment, and it just keeps getting better and better and better and better, you know. And Reckon agrees with Eduardo. He says, holy hell, is that so true? Look, gotta be careful. Now, you know what? I have to say that my neighbor is very different. He has actually invited me to a party that he has done. And I think it was a New Year's party, and there was plenty of beer, drank as much as we wanted. But my neighbor is different. He's not the average Tico. And the reason I say he's not the average Tico is, you know, he was born in this remote area. And in this remote area, look, you over an hour away, hour and a half away from the closest store. There's no banks, no post office, no electricity, no water, no nothing. And the only thing they got here is trees and monkeys, okay? And so he's not living in the middle of all of the Ticos, so he doesn't have that Tico mentality. That dude he's the hardest working Tico I know, okay? Yeah, hardworking Tico. But, you know, he's still a Tico, and he still has some of the Tico culture. Nothing wrong with that. That's what Ticos are. You'll never change the culture no matter where you go in what country. But he's really a hardworking dude, and, hey, he's offered me a beer when I've gone to his place. But it's not always the case with most Ticos. Eduardo says, Island for president for gringos in Costa Rica, the best one we need to help us go. Hey, vote for me. I'm going to help make America great. Wait. I'm going to make Costa Rica great again. That could be my slogan. Making Costa Rica cheap again. No, that won't work. Making Costa Rica awesome again. That might work. Making Costa Rica paradise. And you look, I say, I love, my wife and I, we talk about how blessed, how fortunate we are to live where we live. It really does feel like we're in the Garden of Eden. It really does feel like paradise. And the guy, my neighbor that I was taking care of, poor thing, he'd come by here and I'd say, good morning. It's another beautiful day in paradise. I'll quit calling it paradise. Costa Rica's no paradise. He hated Costa Rica. And he was here for 18 years before he died in Costa Rica. That's hilarious. Esquire says it's almost an Eden. Hey, Esquire, is your place in Eden? I know my place is. Anyway, here's the key thing about Costa Rica. You don't need to pay a relocation expert to come here. If you've got more money than sense, and that probably doesn't sound good, well, pay a relocation expert. And reality is, the truth of the matter is, if you pay a relocation expert, look, here's the honest truth. If I knew somebody that was honest, okay, then it's worth paying a relocation expert if they're honest to actually help you. But if the relocation expert is not honest and they're selling you products and services you don't need, okay, just so they can make more money, well, what's the point, okay? Now, if I was a relocation expert, I'll never be one. I am an expert, okay, but I'm just not going to hold your hand. I don't want to work. I don't want to work that hard, okay? I work extremely hard, but I work at what I like. And I like people. I don't want to hold your hand, okay? And so people that like holding your hand, and that's what Sarah will do. She'll hold your hand, but she'll hold your hand with one hand, and she'll have her other hand in your back pocket, okay? Taking everything that you got. So you got to be careful. If you had an honest relocation expert, I would promote her, because the reality is, if you don't have time to do the research, if you don't want to take the time to do the research, and you got a lot of time, if you got enough disposable income to just pay somebody to do all the logistics for you, then it's worth it. But if you got someone who's dishonest and they're going to charge you $2,000 to hold your hand, and they're going to rip you off every time you turn around and nickel and dime you, it's not worth it. And at this point in time in the game, I don't know anybody that is an honest relocation expert. If you know somebody and you want me to investigate, I'll go undercover and I'll investigate and find out whether they're honest or not. I love doing that. And why is it I love doing that? Well, I used to be military police. I love, I don't know how many criminals I put in jail. I love finding criminals. I love catching dishonest people in the act. I love it. Okay. Anyway, get off of that. Esquire says, I asked him if his is eaten. He says, well, come and see. Come. You teasing me now. Eduardo shares something here. He says, some people, my wife's family say, hey, get a bigger house. And I tell them, hey, it's just my wife, me, and my dog and my cat. That's all we need. And, I think the majority of the people that come to Costa Rica, not all of them, but the majority of people come to Costa Rica, they are downsizing. They're downsizing. So if you're coming to Costa Rica and you're wanting to downsize, you're wanting to relax, you're wanting to enjoy life more, don't buy a big house, because all you're going to do is have a lot of upkeep, a lot of expense, a lot of electricity. If you come into Costa Rica, and most people who are, they are going to downsize. Now, you know what? I know expats that's got $1 million houses on the coast, okay? Nothing wrong with that. If you got that much money, great, okay? I'm happy for you, okay? I'm not envious. I'm happy for you. I wished I had that kind of money. But if I did have that kind of money, I can promise you I wouldn't have $1 million house, okay? I would be enjoying and I'd be helping more people. Okay. If I had that kind of funds, I would help more people. Matter of fact, with that in mind, let me ask you a question, serious question here. It's something that's been on my mind for about a year now. You know, I see several areas in Costa Rica where it needs improvement, a community that needs help. And I've heard of many expats that say they would like to find some way to give back to the community, to give back to Costa Rica. Well, I know of several projects in Costa Rica where if you wanted to be a part of giving back to Costa Rica, I've been thinking about doing several of these projects, you know, doing videos on them and saying, hey, look, we got this project right here. They really need a better sidewalk, or they really need they need to work on their community salon. We need to do this. You know, they need a bridge over this river right here, a walking bridge. And you know what? If all of you donate, I can build this bridge, and all of you have a part in giving back to that community. So I really would like to know, is that something that you would enjoy? Is that something you would benefit? You know, if I have a project and I promote this project and I say, hey, you want to give back? Then all you got to do is click on the link and you can donate here, and I'll be 100% transparent. Hey, we raised $1,000 and we need another $1,000 in order to do the project. We raised enough money to do the project, and then you get to watch video footage of that whole project and seeing how it has helped benefit the locals in that community. If that's something that you would like to be a part of, I definitely would like to hear about that. You know, I'd like to have your input. Now, Bruce puts in a great comment that I love. He says, I don't care how much money you have. If you blindly allow others to tell you what to do and how much you need to spend, it's a poor reflection on your sense of self-worth. And I absolutely 100% agree with you, Bruce. You blindly let someone else tell you what to do, well, you're setting yourself up to be conned. Hey, welcome back, Double Dog Doug. Hey, glad to see you here. He's been missing out. Dude, you've been missing out on a lot of fun. So, folks, I really would like to get your feedback on would you like to be a part. You know, in other words, if I do a couple of these projects, would you donate to it to kind of help offset the cost? Because I don't have a lot of money, but it would be nice to, hey, man, I could put in the labor and oversee the project, get the job done, and then you get to benefit on, you get to feel good that you were a part of making an improvement somewhere in Costa Rica. All right. Well, hey, I cannot believe it, but we are already just about done with an hour. Time flies when you're having fun. So, folks, hey, greatly appreciate you being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you haven't already done so, subscribe, share, especially after this video is over. Hey, comment. Let me know what you thought about it. And I definitely would like to get some feedback on, you know, what video series you'd like me to do next, what kind of video you'd like me to do, all that kind of good stuff. Whether you want to be a part of this giving back to the community project, give me some input, and I would love it. Ken says, hey, thanks once again. So I greatly appreciate all of you. Hey, I can't wait to see you next week. Not sure what we'll be talking about next week, but hey, next week we'll have another Unbridled Living Costa Rica podcast. I'm sure we're going to be talking about something good. All right, folks. Like Esquire says, have a good evening, Alan. Have a good evening, buddy. Y'all all have a great one. I can't wait to see you next week. Same station, same channel, right here on the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast.